Hello, welcome back. We are criticizing online conquest guides again. Today we're looking at Antirush, and while the set itself is pretty solid, I don't know so much about the guide. So what? Why is this in quotes and not bold like everything else? Um, I've already got problems and I haven't read anything. Um, okay, units, air quotes in there. Uh, yeah, familiarize yourself with the units. You can also use the rush units, but with these commands, although that's not going to be as strong. So as the name suggests, it's very effective against rush. However, it can be used effectively against most other setups as well. Well, I'd say it can be used decently. I don't know about effectively, because to me, if you're going to say it can be used effectively, that means it's going to pretty much win against most other setups as well. I don't know about this. I mean, I guess you can use it against most of the things, random people might throw your way, or maybe some of the sets farther down below in the page. But like again, it works against rush, but against bombard and regen, well, those are either going to be a draw or like a 50-50 coin flip. So I don't know. You can say it can be effectively as opposed to decently. Like it's gonna maybe at least tie the other sets. I don't think it outright loses to anything. Let's see. Although it has weaknesses against things like bombard. I don't really know if it does have a weakness against bombard. Top level play is still sorting that out. So this setup is effective against rush formation, because once they make the attack, you can chastise and mend your scout wall for 2 turns. Yep, that's true. Usually enough to protect most of your troops. When the opponent attacks, he or she will either use shield wall or stoicism. Well, setup there, we use stoicism first. If they use shield wall, again, you're going to smack them with a Halley. If the champion is at full health, you should fill a gap with your halberd and hit the champion when they use shield wall. So that might be something for the rush player. Maybe try and make it so you move your champion away from their wall when you use shield wall, just because they can't mend it with a halberd and hit your champion. I don't know, just some speculation. Maybe that's not really possible. When attacking with Antirush, you should know Chastise is not an effective defense. Well, it sort of depends. If they've only got one champion, I would say it's a pretty great defense. However, with the champions and other high health troops, one can take advantage of the opponent's troop configuration. So if one champion's in the way of another, you can just chastise that champion. So any setup with chastise can be considered anti-rush. Well, I would very much disagree. I would say if they have bombard, they're going to be bombard. If they have regen, they're going to be regen. And you can have variants of those with like shield wall instead of chastise, and they're still bombard, it's still regen. It's, again, just going to be a variant. Any setup with, no, I was there. Many have other names. It's because they're not anti-rush, because they don't necessarily stop the rush. Like bombard, it has chastise, it's not anti-rush. It gets absolutely steamrolled by rush. So anti-rush should not be used with shield wall. I think it means instead of stoicism, as it is too easily exploited when making an attack. So like having a scout hit the champion while you have shield wall on. I think maybe that's a fair thought. But I will say, if you use shield wall instead of stoicism, that will save your 200 HP units, definitely. Unless you're going against bombard, in which case then I guess you actually have a weakness there. But against any other set, maybe versus another anti-rush, shield wall might have some worth to it. if they hit your champion with a charged BC Scout, you can use Shield Wall instead of Stoicism, and that will actually protect you from champions that use Battle Cry. So weaknesses. Foot Soldiers, yeah, to an extent, I would agree Foot Soldiers. Scouts, I would not say Scouts are a weakness of Antirush. I mean, you don't get any advantage just by having Scouts. I mean, you have an advantage if you use like a lot of Foot Soldiers, like the Footy spam. Maybe a slight advantage, maybe it's not so clear, but you definitely have a better chance with more Foot Soldiers. Shield Wall, well, it's pretty weird it says Shield Wall is a weakness here, because it just said that Shield Wall is easily exploited. And no, Chastise is not a weakness of anything except Rush, because they don't have Chastise. You can't say it's a weakness just because they're getting equal play. A weakness would be something that beats you, or that makes you have a disadvantage. So them having Chastise, they're not going to get an advantage. It's going to be equal play. I mean, you have Chastise yourself. I mean, you have Scouts yourself. You have one Foot Soldier. So, maybe multiple could be considered a weakness. But, yeah, these are definitely not weaknesses. So let's look at the Footy spam. Now, it's basically the same thing, but you change a Halberd and a Scout into 2 Foot Soldiers. So for this formation, try to have 2 rows of pieces. Yeah, okay. Oh, four in the back row. I've never seen 4 entire pieces in the back row. Maybe I've seen like 2 in the back row and 1 in the middle. Or maybe just, you could call that just 3 in the back row. But no, 4, I've never seen 4 in the back row. I think this one you only want 2 in the back row, to be honest. So 0 in the middle and 6 in the front row. And a champion each row. So this creates a gap that can be used for offense and defense, depending on whether you decide to rush. Well, you can't rush without rush commands, can you? Or stay hold up while protecting the pieces you consider most important for victory. Well, can't stay hold up forever, can you? You gotta use charge and battle cry on those Scouts. Using the best of both rush and anti-rush. It doesn't pull anything from rush. This is completely from anti-rush. If there were a knight, I would say it's from rush. If it had shield wall, I would say it's from... But I'm going to say it's completely from anti-rush. So this setup allows you to build a strong wall of Foot Soldiers that can be used to pick up... Well, I wouldn't say a wall. I would just say maybe a strong advancement of Foot Soldiers. I wouldn't call it a wall. I would call what you're using a wall. To hide your champions behind. While tanking their hits, or waiting for an opponent to waste a command to run in for a strike. With large amounts of hit points, cheap secondary commands. Well, they're not that cheap. They're kind of intermediate. I mean, Stoicism is 75. I would consider Vigilance, Chastise, and Shield Wall to be cheap commands. So it's only got one of those, just Chastise. And costly risk for the opponent. This setup allows you to swiftly accrue command points while leaving little on the plate for your opponent. I disagree. I'm going to go ahead and say they're going to get an equal amount as you. Unless maybe they want to use Battle Cry to, kill one of your Foot Soldiers. They probably won't. Maybe they will. But even then, they're only losing a net of 25 command points for that Battle Cry. And, maybe that's worth it for a unit. Although you've got an attack after that and some other craziness, but I'm not going to say it just leaves little for your opponent to use. Okay, so, oh boy, if you go first, let's see, so move your Foot Soldier up, don't let them gap Scouts. If they bring out an Archer, just charge BC it. We're not going to read anything about Archers or Mages, because we're not concerned with them. If you're watching this, you should understand that a Scout using charge on an Archer or a Mage is just going to demolish them. You can even bring 2 Scouts up, use charge on one, and also use Stoicism. So when they use Chastise, you bring the other one up, and then you get, 2 archers for 2 scouts. So it's a pretty good trade. At this point, what was I? To knock out your foot soldier without sacrificing points, or with only battle cry, and attempt to tank their refreshing timer, not yours. So if your opponent is starting out, well, we're not going to read about the archer. I don't care about archers. If your opponent is starting with a champion, bring a scout out to attack him. And yeah, actually suicide your scout. I'm noticing these guides are saying what to do depending on which turn you have, but they're not really saying what to do against specific sets. Like, maybe your approach against Bombard is going to be different for your approach versus Rush. I mean, Bombard's just going to sit back and not do anything. Rush is going to, try to attack you, I guess. But they're assuming, it's almost like they're assuming they're always going to have the same set, or that it's always going to work out the same for your, like, if you go first or second. But that's really not the case. These guys should be focusing on how they're going to interact with other sets more than if you're just going first or second. So I think against other sets should be the main category, and then first, second would be like a subcategory of that. Because there are distinctions between going first and second, but I don't think this gives you the essential knowledge you actually need. It's only going to tell you what to do in like a very narrow kind of scenario. So yeah, suicide your scout, chastise to stop them. Well, they don't have 300 HP now, they have 400 HP. You only crashed 1 scout. I mean, they would have 300 if you had used, or if you had hit them with the halberd when they used shield wall, but it doesn't really say they've used that here. So I'm going to take issue with that. And we'll have very little reason to use chastise if it's at their disposal. Yeah, they can't. Chastise will be pretty useless if you keep both of your champions attacking theirs. Now, the goal of Rush actually is to have multiple targets. If you have Chastise, oddly enough, the goal is to have 1 target. Because with Rush, you're focused on buffing up your units, and with Chastise, you're focused on debuffing the opponent's units. So if they have more things that you gotta worry about, then Chastise isn't gonna work. An interesting thing is Rush versus Rush, right? So Chastise can defend multiple units. The Rush commands can attack multiple units. That's how I would classify that. So really interesting are Rush versus Rush games, because each side wants to have multiple attacks, but neither side can defend multiple things. So those are always very interesting games. Usually player 2 wins because they have charged battle cry first. So if your opponent is starting with the scout, just move your foot soldier some more to attack the scout. The next move probably won't matter. Unless they use battle cry on your foot soldier. Oh, this is if you go first. Well, no, if you go first, they might actually use battle cry on your foot soldier. So I would probably say get your champion in range of that foot soldier. Oh, wait, I think I skipped a line. There it is. It does say to do that. Wait, no, they... Okay, no, they didn't. Move champion within your foot soldier. So you can recapture if they take, or they probably won't want to take because they lose battle cry. If chastised, you can just do nothing, I guess. It basically says to do anything. Your next turn will still be to try to get within the range of the enemy's hard hitters with your current point advantage. If the scout retreats instead of attacking foot soldier, just move your champion 2 more. You're going to baby step for a fake attack. Well, what are you doing when you get close enough? Oh, they'll likely have 150 points before you, but you're ending up stopping any rush, I guess. Yeah, because you're really worried about rush. What I think is interesting, though, is against Antirush, it looks like you're sort of sacrificing something in case they don't have in case they do have rush. But if they don't have rush, I would sort of guess that it doesn't work out for you. So, again, this all looks like it's assuming that they specifically have the rush set with them. So, if they go first, the objective is simple. You want to rush the opponent. Well, you can't rush with Chastise. It's very difficult. And again, depends on the set. Like Bombard, you have to sort of crack open their wall first if you want to do that. So starting just as you would, move your foot soldier. Right, we don't care about archers. When the foot soldier is in place, move it up once more as far as you can, putting walking distance and attacking range between you and an enemy. Now place a champion. Yeah, 4 spaces forward, 2 spaces to the left to prevent scouts from hitting him. Make sure you are within the range of at least 2 of your hard hitters. Okay. Do not waste commands. If you are chastised, just ignore it. Your enemy is scared. Well, yeah, that's probably true. They are scared because they wasted their command points. They don't have anything to counter with now. You know, they didn't have enough to charge BC. But I will say, if they use Chastise and walk up to you, you probably need to chastise them back because they're about to use Battle Cry. So you don't want to have that happen to you. So they really aren't considering a lot of different options here. They're telling you just to ignore it. I know it's set up there, like these are just general strategies, but still, I mean, if you're going to speak in absolutes like that, then it's not really going to work. Yeah, so the ability would be useless. If you find you need to go through an enemy scout to reach these pieces, I'll get within range at 100 command points and let him take something. And then you have 150 command, or let him hit your champion rather. So that would be you taking something. So if you take something at 100 command points, you get 150 next turn. They can't do anything. So if suicided a pawn, charge, and battle cry an opponent's champion, and stoicism. Well, yeah, if you have the 400 HP, then you would, I guess, want to use stoicism. Although I would say use chastise instead of stoicism. I would say use chastise, that'll protect you, and then use stoicism, that'll protect you. And again, you have to consider what happens if they hide their champion. You're not able to do this. Really not discussing that. So if suicide, yeah, okay. If rushing with a full champion, do not use any further commands other than charge and battle cry until your next turn. Alright, weaknesses. Archers for some... Well, I would not say archers are a weakness of any good set. You can just use charge with your scouts to kill those archers. You have 4 scouts, and then you have a bunch of foot soldiers. They can take some hits from those archers. And again, chastise, not a weakness. Not a weakness. Maybe it's a weakness for the strategy that they've put up to just, try to rush them, even though you don't have rush. Maybe, chastise would stop that. But against the set in general and how I think you should play it, I would say no, it's not a weakness. It's, again, just being equal, just balancing things out. They don't get any sort of advantage. It's not a weakness. So Antirush, I highly recommend. There are certain standard ways to arrange the units. Maybe they can be fiddled around with a bit, but if I recall, Antirush has sort of gone through an evolution based on experience playing. Usually we like to line the halberds up. Usually we like to have the foot soldier right next to the champion. Things like that. This footy spam, yeah, it's got a weird, it's saying to put 4 in the back row. I don't know about that. I think only 2 should go in the back row. Everything else should be up front to attack. Yeah, these guides are not really telling you what to do against specific sets. So maybe I'll do a video series on that, how to play certain sets, against what. But yeah, I think that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching. We're going to look at the Regenerate guide next.